Hey there friends, Dave Paulides, Canine Missing Project, copyrighted edition for a video channel. And it's with a warm heart and a big smile that I'm happy to report that Charlotte Cena, the 9-year-old girl who disappeared from Moreau Lake State Park in New York, was found alive and a suspect's in custody. It was a very odd case. Parents lost sight of her for 15 minutes in an upper New York park, found her bike, and her aunt said it's like she disappeared into thin air. That was a quote from her aunt. And the New York State Police stayed on it. There were some rumors that the suspect left a note at the parents' house. They lived, I think, 14 miles away. And the New York police worked it. Sometimes law enforcement screws things up. Not this time. They did a great job. She's probably, there's no doubt in my mind, she's going to have to go through a lot of counseling and a lot of warm, loving hearts from people that care about her, need to be around her right now. And it's just a reminder, if you're a parent, do not go to a park and let your child get out of your sight. I don't care where the park is. It's not a friendly place to be. It's not a safe place to be. And it's a place where pedophiles go to look for bait. They're looking out there. They're hanging around there. I've said it before too. Don't ever let your child use a mall restroom alone. That's where pedophiles hang out. I'm telling you. And it's a sorry state of affairs, but you can't let your child out of your sight. Not in this day and age. I was just asked a while ago by somebody, hey, do you think this guy's going to get let loose? Not in northern New York. I think they're a lot more conservative than some of the liberals in New York City. I don't think that they're going to let this person go. I'm sure, and maybe, since the FBI joined the investigation earlier in the day yesterday, they might charge him federally. I don't know. We'll see. But that was a very, very good ending to this case. Now, when I first heard about Charlotte being taken from this park, it reminded me of a case I wrote about in Missing 411 Eastern United States. And I'm going to tell you about it. So, I did this map up and I was looking at it and I thought, this is pretty weird. So Charlotte disappeared right here. Moreau Lake State Park in New York. Next case I'm talking to you about occurred right here. The Tannis Point Campground in Maine. Now, according to Google Maps, the quickest way to get there is go into Montreal and zoom over. Cross the border twice, something I'd never do. But from here to here, it's about 250 air miles. Not that far. So, when I did the research on the case, I got teary-eyed over this one. The little boy's name was Kurt Newton. He was 4 years old, went missing August 31st, 1975. Again, the Tannis Point Campground. It's called Chain of Ponds, Maine. There's 2 ponds there. It happened on Labor Day weekend, last weekend in August, 75. The parents were Ron and Jill Newton. They had a daughter and a son, and they lived in Manchester. And they decided they were going to take their kids over Labor Day weekend camping. Now, this campground is right on the Canadian border. Keep that in mind. August 31st, Kurt wakes up. Dad makes a big breakfast. Hearty eggs, bacon, ham, whatever. The article said it was a big breakfast. So Kurt's wearing his favorite coat with emblems on it, they said. And the parents brought his tricycle. And he gets on the tricycle and he starts riding around near the campground. Well, he got out of their sight. They started looking for him after about 15, 20 minutes. I know that's a long time to let a 4-year-old go. I admit that. But they started looking around. They can't find him. They start searching more and more. Can't find anything. Looking for the tricycle. Looking for him. Turns out that somebody found the tricycle up a logging road just outside the campground. And because it was off the side of the logging road, they thought it was trash, so they picked it up. Later on, the Newtons found this, knew it was Kurt's, and couldn't understand what he was doing up the logging road on this dirty path. And they looked around and they found a girl. The girl said she saw Kurt riding around and thought he was too far from everybody. So she asked Kurt, "Do you know where your parents are?" And he didn't answer her. Well, that was the last time anybody had contact with Kurt. Now, remember, we've talked about this before, those life moments where you're tested. I think when Angie and I saw this little boy in the woods near Rocky Mountain National Park, I think that was a life test. I think this could be construed as a life test too. Now, I don't know how old this girl was, but couldn't have been too old. She walked away, and it wasn't until much later that she was questioned by law enforcement that responded. Well, the parents found the trike, law enforcement was already called, and the search and rescue commander that responded was a 14-year veteran of the Maine Warden Service who had done 50 searches so far in his career with a 100% success rate in finding people. Now, I'm going to admit, I'm one of those people that watch Maine Warden's show on TV. I think it's a great show. And they've had a couple of really interesting search and rescue episodes on there. One where lights were seen in the woods while they were searching. Okay, getting back to this story. So the Warden Service puts out a call for mass help. And they get Elgin Air Force Base to send a plane and a helicopter with FLIR over. The first night after Kurt went missing, heavy rains hit the area. That's what Kurt looked like. Blonde hair, towhead, good kid. Well, there was an 8 square mile area searched, and the wardens called for cadaver dogs and regular dogs during the week plus search that went on. The area that they were searching kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger because they weren't finding anything. They brought in some professional trackers. The trackers stated that there had been no car up that road, that logging road, in a long time. Okay, so no cars up there. Well, who put the tricycle off the dirt road? And where did Kurt go? Canines weren't picking up a scent. They interviewed everybody that was in the campground. They asked if anybody saw any strange cars loitering around the area, hanging around where they shouldn't have been. No. They brought in multiple helicopters. One person owned a special aircraft from military times, and they brought that in. It was one of the biggest searches in the history of the Maine Wardens. There were up to 1,000 people one day searching. That's how big it was. Now, one way out of that park went to the Canadian border. It's a guarantee that if this was just a serial abduction by a credent, they're not going towards the border. Too many cameras, too many chances of being identified. No, they're not doing that. That meant you came out of there, you only had one way to go. The problem with that is that too much of a chance of being seen again. What if there's an accident, you have to stop and slowly roll by a bunch of law enforcement people? Problem. The area next to the border and where the logging road was is very remote. Very remote. It just didn't seem to me to be a location that a serial abductor or serial criminal would pick. Needless to say, the search went on for a lengthy time. After they got the parents to say, I don't even know where else you would search was terminated. Now, about 9 months after the search, the Maine Warden Service decided they were going to give it one big go with cadaver dogs. May 1976, one-day search and rescue in the area with cadaver dogs brought in from all over the eastern U.S. Their job was to find Kurt's remains. Well, they spent 12 hours searching throughout that park. They found nothing. Warden Dwayne Lewis at the time, at the end of the day, told the press, "We are convinced that Kurt Newton is not here." Well, the obvious question from the press then is, where's Kurt Newton? How far can a 4-year-old little boy go? Can that 4-year-old boy walk out of your search zone? Can that 4-year-old boy evade trackers? Where's the clothing that Kurt was wearing? Few answers to those. A 4 to 6-year-old boy is found 95% of the time 4.1 miles or less from the point he was last seen. And 95% of the time, they're mobile for 16 hours or less in that environment. So if a boy 4 years old is in the wilderness for 3 days, his chance of survival is 0, according to the search and rescue manuals. If he's found at 2 days, there's a 1/3 of all of them are alive at the end of 1 day, or 2 days. 1/3 after 2 days. Question that I would ask myself on Kurt's case: would a human abductor be hiding behind a tree on a logging road waiting for a little boy to come up? Well, that doesn't make any sense, does it? Because Kurt weighs probably 50 pounds. How long are you going to be able to carry somebody weighing 50 pounds in the woods? But that's not the point. There's hikers, backpackers, people walking all through those woods. This is such a remote area that even if you parked your car outside the park, it's going to get noticed, and that'll identify you. Doesn't make any sense. Well, the case is 47 years old. Kurt's never been found. My gut tells me something very odd happened here. Because of the remoteness of the park, it's hard for me to believe that someone like a serial abductor would take a risk on this. Now, on Charlotte's case, there were much more people hanging around this area where she disappeared. The suspect didn't live that far away. Where Kurt disappeared, there aren't many people out there. But the point is, when you're going to a park, you don't ever know who's at this park. It's not a bunch of nice people sometimes. And I know we like to go away on vacation and think, hey, we're at the great place, there's nobody around here that would hurt us. It's Disneyland. No, it's not, folks. As a parent, you got to always keep one eye on your child. I don't care where you're at. And one thing that I will try to do on this channel is educate you so you and your family are safe on the trail. And the number one rule in my house is that you have a small child, they're always in front of you on the trail in your eyesight, period. Some people say, well, Dave, I don't want to do that. Then put them on a leash. Yeah, a leash. Some people say, oh, that's cruel. Well, those are my choices. Now, going to trail safety. And I'm going to talk to you about something that I couldn't believe it when I saw it, but I'm going to talk to you about it. This happened last week. Here's the story. Now I'm not reading letters, this is news. And this is trail safety news, so hang on. It said 2 grizzlies follow hikers down trail for 20 minutes in Banff National Park. We all kind of just watched in awe, says the guide who was the only hiker carrying bear spray. Idiots! Idiots! By the way, there's a video out there of this that'll blow your mind. It shows all these people in a big group hiking down the trail, not running, and 2 huge bears behind them, grizzlies. 2 large grizzly bears followed 13 hikers down a trail in Banff for 20 minutes, with one even making a few quick runs at the group. Those are called bluff charges. It's not every day that you think you're actually going to be that close to 2 grizzly bears, said Phoebe Nicholson, a guide with Discover Banff Tours who was leading the hike along Consolation Lake Trail near Moraine Lake. Quote, a pretty intense but also pretty amazing experience to see animals like that in the wild, just their natural habitat, going for a walk with us. Folks, they were not just going for a walk, they were sizing up this group for a meal. And if there would have been 1 or probably 2 people there, it would have been an attack scene. As I've always told you, around grizzly bear, the more numbers you are, the better of a chance you have of surviving. Because this was a very large group, the bears backed down. But let's go on. Nicholson, who's originally from Australia, said it was her first ever encounter with grizzly, despite moving to Canada over a year ago and working in Banff as a hiking guide for the past 6 months. Grizzly bear notoriously do not like humans, and they try to stay away from them most of the time. They tried to stay calm and keep a slow pace. The grizzlies remained 10 to 20 meters behind the hikers for a whole 20 minutes, says Nicholson, who was the only one carrying bear spray. We have had a lot of training, and I talked to bears on all my tours as well, she said, admitting she was nervous. Knowledge-wise, I knew exactly what I should be doing, but it's different putting it into action. The group started their hike at Moraine Lake near Lake Louise, one of the most popular tourist attractions in the park. One of the hikers alerted Nicholson about the bears after hearing rustling in the bushes behind them, 2/3 of the way up Consolation Lake Trail. Nicholson says the bears seemed very large, but she believed they were a mother and its adolescent cub. I don't know about that. The baby one did a few quick turns at one point, which may have been what we call a bluff charge, which is where they run at you to see what the reaction is going to be, she said. From my training, I know that this is a normal thing. The best thing you do is, of course, to stay calm. Yeah, when's it stop being a bluff charge and it's a real charge and you're in deep poo-poo? Eventually, the bears left the hikers, continuing their walk up the mountain once the hikers reached Consolation Lake. We all kind of just watched in awe, getting our breath back. So how to stay safe? Stop, talk, walk. Nick DeRuyter, a Wild Smart program director at Biosphere Institute in Bow Valley and Canmore, says encounters like Nicholson's aren't out of the ordinary. He says bears, much like humans, often choose to walk on trails rather because it's easier. Typically, when I hear stories like this, it's just bears trying to move from A to B. We just happen to be in their way. In my teachings, I use 3 words: stop, talk, walk. DeRuyter says never run. Instead, back away slowly and move out of the bear's way. In cases where backing up slowly for long periods of time may be too difficult, DeRuyter says hikers can also slowly move off the trail when it's safe to do so. He emphasizes that leaving the area slowly, talking to the bear in a calm voice, and avoiding eye contact can be helpful, especially for grizzly bear encounters. Obviously, I'd recommend having my bear spray out and ready to go just in case, said Ryder. An email statement from Parks Canada reminds Banff National Park visitors to always obey warnings of area closures and to stay on official trails. This is the advisory. Always keep your bear spray accessible. Don't put it in your backpack. Understand how to use it properly. Practice. The spray can also deter other big game animals like moose and cougar. Make noise, call out, clap, sing, and talk loudly, especially near streams, dense vegetation, berry patches, on windy days with low visibility. Keep dogs on leashes at all times. It's the law, and off-leash dogs can agitate wildlife. Travel in large groups of 4 or more people. Stay together on the trail. Watch for signs of bears, tracks, droppings, disturbances, etc. Now, let me say something about this. First of all, I think Canada is insane to not allow you to carry guns while you're hiking in their national parks. I think it's nuts. Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Come here. Huck was out there crying, but she doesn't want to come in. She just wanted to look. Come on, Dad, come out and play with me. Hey, sorry. I'm training right now. All right. So, yeah, I think it's crazy. I think it's crazy that Canada has this opinion about guns and people, and I think it is crazy that they don't allow you to carry guns in parks. Sorry, I just do. Now, this time of the year, late September, early October, bears are in their last couple months out before they hibernate. They're in a zone of eating everything they can before they hibernate. Around the valley right now, plums are on fruit trees. In fact, just the other day, somebody we know had a plum tree, and they said something came in the middle of the night, broke a bunch of branches, and ate every plum off the tree. It was a bear. So, this time of the year, one of the most dangerous times to be anywhere and see a bear, a grizzly bear. So, this is why I'm talking to you about this. Happened just a couple days ago. A couple dead after a bear attack in Banff National Park. Grizzly killed. Just read you a story about 14 people getting followed by 2 grizzly bear in Banff. Now, 2 people killed in Banff. The common law couple were experienced in the backcountry, says family member. CBC News. Parks Canada received an alert from a GPS device in the Red Deer Valley on Friday night indicating a bear attack. A grizzly bear attacked and killed 2 people in the Banff National Park west of Sundre, Alberta. The people who died were common law partners, according to a family member of one of the deceased, whose name CBC News is choosing to keep confidential. They were long-term partners who loved the outdoors and were inseparable, read a statement from the family member. They lived for being in the backcountry and were 2 of the most cautious people I know. They knew bear protocol and followed it to a T. My point exactly. I don't care if you follow bear protocol to a T, this kind of garbage can happen. That's why you have to be armed if you're going out there. I would never go out there unarmed. I'm not saying you can do that in Canada, you can't. Parks Canada received an alert from a GPS device in Red Deer Valley west of Yaha Tinda Ranch at 8 p.m. Friday indicating a bear attack, said Natalie Fay, the external relations manager for the Banff Field Unit. In a statement, Fay said a team of specially trained in wildlife attacks was immediately mobilized, but weather hindered their response time. Weather conditions at the time did not allow for helicopter use, and the response team had to travel through the night to the location on the ground. The response team arrived at about 1 a.m. and discovered 2 deceased individuals. While in the area, the response team encountered a grizzly bear displaying aggressive behavior, Fay said, leading Parks Canada staff to destroy the animal on site. RCMP arrived at 5 a.m. to transport the victims to Sundre, Alberta. They were deceased. This is a tragic incident, and Parks Canada wishes to express its sincere condolences. The article goes on to say Kim Titchener, a wildlife conflict specialist in Alberta, said deadly bear encounters are rare. Only 14% of grizzly bear attacks worldwide lead to fatalities. Often when people have encounters with grizzly, usually the grizzly goes one direction and the people go the other. Maybe. We had an attack up here maybe 3-4 weeks ago, and the grizzly tore off the man's jaw. He survived. So we rarely do see cases where we actually have everyone involved killed. I think we've had 2 this year in Montana. Tishner said the majority of bear attacks tend to be caused by surprise run-ins. Bears also tend to be more active at dusk, she said. 1 man and 1 woman are dead after being mauled by a grizzly bear while hiking in a remote part of Banff, said Parks Canada. The couple's dog was also killed in the attack. Park officials say the bear was later located and destroyed. They could have surprised a bear at close range and had an encounter that led to the defensive attack. It's extremely rare to see predatory attacks by grizzlies, but it's not unheard of. According to the family member of one of the deceased, the family received a notification via InReach at 5 p.m. that the couple had camped for the night. They checked in every night, said a family member. This means we're not traveling after dark, and they were setting up a camp when the attack happened. At this time of the year, bears are in hyperphagia, said Titchener, a period of increased appetite as bears prepare to hibernate for the winter, as I said. While Titchener said there's no relationship between this time frame and increased bear attacks in humans, bears are indeed hungry. They're still digging up root systems and just trying to eat what grasses are left. While some bears begin to den in mid-October, large bears stay active until December, a reminder that it is still actively bear season across the province. Merle Fox and his wife Lori have managed the sunset guiding and outfitting west of Sundre for the 14 years. Fox said his camp is roughly 3 hours west of where the attack happened by horseback. Well, I hate to say it, but I wasn't really surprised, Fox said in response to hearing the attack. Bears are hungry this time of the year, and there are no berries or a thing out there for them this year. Fox said a late frost in the spring froze off all the berry blossoms, leading to a shortage of one of the bear's main food groups. He added that faced with vegetation shortage, grizzly bears will turn to eating deer, young elk, and wild horses. I think it's probably why these 2 people were attacked, is that the bear was hungry and saw them as an easy target. While he's not too nervous traversing this area given his experience, Fox said he and his guide often head into the backcountry armed just in case they do encounter a bear. He said the terrain where the attack occurred is made up of steep cliffs and is accessible by foot or on horseback. The fact that the bear was still in the area when Parks Canada response team arrived on the scene is highly unusual, said Titchener, especially if the attack was a defensive one. Usually the attack occurs and the bear leaves. So that, of course, is concerning, and I'm not sure what was going on there, but of course, those details will come out as they do an investigation. Titchener added that one of the Parks Canada responders would kill a bear on the spot if it is behaving aggressively toward them. Obviously, they had to take the bear's lives so they could hopefully get to those people. It's a shame. It's a shame. It is a shame. So, this is Sundre, Alberta. This is the ranch, and the location where they were was just west of the ranch. This is Banff Park, right here. Now this is the ranch, and these people were found just up here. This is the location where the people were chased or followed by 2 bears. There and there is about 30 miles. That is nothing to a grizzly bear. Could it be the same bear? Could be, but there's a lot of grizzlies out there. So this was a super dangerous encounter. This was a deadly encounter. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because I know that there's a lot of people still coming up here to Montana. And I know that there's a lot of people still going to Canada, and obviously in Banff. Do not screw around, folks. Do not. First of all, everybody in that group that was followed by those grizzly bears should have had bear spray. Only one person in the whole group had it? That's ridiculous. Sometimes Angie and I go with 2 bottles. And I'm carrying a rifle or a big handgun. Frustrates the heck out of me. You could hear that rancher that lived there at Yahenda Ranch, he's good carrying a rifle when he goes out there. I feel very sorry for those 2 people that died, and their dog died, probably trying to defend them against 1 bear. horror that they must have encountered is, thank you for being here. Again, I'm very grateful. I'm grateful that Charlotte was found alive and put her on the road to a healthy mind too, please. Thanks for being here. Please share this on your social media. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. Paulides out.